It's really validating to be here because, you know, all through my career, I've had so many people. My debut movie was Aisha, which was, I think, almost a decade ago. And I've had people come up to me all, you know, since then saying, "Oh my God, you're that girl from Aisha, no? You're so good, why did you stop acting?" And then I'm like, "No, thanks, sir. No, I actually didn't stop acting. I never stopped. I still act." So it feels really good to be here. And then on the other hand, I have people coming up to me, gushing about my role in Made in Heaven. I don't know if you guys have seen it, an Amazon web series. It was great, right? So I just had an episodic role in it, which means that it was just one episode. And it had like a huge cast with so many wonderful actors that I didn't expect to get the kind of appreciation that I did from it, really. I was very surprised. I just did it because I was offered a role that was a grey character, which for me, it was so starkly different from the usual, you know, sweet girl next door, bubbly roles that I usually get offered. And I was really excited to do something different. Now, between these two extremes is where I am right now, trying to figure out where do I fit in. Because, see, the industry loves putting people in neat little boxes with labels. So when I started off, I heard so much about, you know, what I should be eating, what I should wear, where I should be seen. Practically everything was covered except my acting skills. So I would hear you need to lose weight and you should dress sexier. And you have to look fabulous, babe, every time you step out of the house. So I tried really hard to fit the physical criteria of what a lead heroine should look like. And it was really stressful because it was not who I was and it was not why I left my job as a copywriter at Ogilvy and Mather for. I mean, if I wanted to package and sell products and market them, then I would have continued being in advertising, right? So that being said, there have definitely been a lot of changes in the Indian entertainment industry, and it can almost be termed as the golden age for content. It took me some time to figure out how I was going to talk about the next page, because honestly, I don't know what I'm doing post-March, which is now. That's when the web series that I'm shooting for wraps up. I know that I'll be shooting for more Shots Season 3, which is another show for Amazon. And then I have this other project that came up, which unfortunately, I don't have the dates for. Now, the reason I am telling you this is not because I want to look cool, but because I've not been in this situation before, where I have multiple projects and I don't have the time for it. It's a new phenomena for me. And that's the big change that I have seen with the surge of OTT platforms that have come in. There's been a shift of focus from hero kaun hai picture ka to the narrative and the script. Projects have become more content and character driven, and they're actually doing quite well. Yay. Thank God, because that means that there is a section of the audience that is actively seeking and embracing fresh, raw content. It is really exciting to find myself in this situation, because usually for actors like me, otherwise we'd be waiting around a lot. Of course, you still have the majority of your films and shows being made that have the same ghisa-pita content, you know, and people love watching it. That makes you wonder if there has been enough of a change. And is this change going to be sustainable? Because even though OTT platforms are talked about, we can't ignore the fact that the likes of Amazon and Netflix, they cater to very select audiences. You know, even though Mirzapur and Sacred Games have done so well, that doesn't mean that that's what the larger Indian audience wants to watch. You know, the hero-villain format with that one sexy song that becomes the Sangeet song of the season is still very much standard format, you know. I mean, that being said, I was thrilled when I saw the paper today and I saw that Gully Boy has swept all the awards at Filmfare, so there is a change happening. When I started acting, there was just film and television. Now, the pattern of my career was audition, 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 rejection, 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 and then maybe I would land a role, okay? And then after that, I'd be back to being jobless again. And auditions, the joy of being an artist. So there would, I mean, I'm laughing now, but it was actually quite depressing. There were times that I would be sitting on my sofa with absolutely nothing to do, with nothing coming up, wondering, what have I done? Or karo acting, है ना? और जी ले अपनी ज़िंदगी. And I would really wonder and think that maybe I should have listened to my parents and continued my career in advertising or journalism, you know. Following your passion is bloody overrated. But I never admitted this to them. Now, I do believe web content has allowed actors like me to break away from stereotypical Bollywood roles and explore our capabilities. Because you see, Kaipo Che, which was actually shot in Ahmedabad, released in 2013, and my next film was a whole 6 years later, which was Judgementall, which released last year. Now, if it wasn't for the OTT work that I picked up in between, I would have had to switch careers. But OTT, I mean, don't get me wrong, it hasn't just been about filling the gap. What's exciting is that even though I did a Judgementall, which had big stars like Kangana Ranaut and Rajkumar Rao, I was noticed for my role in Made in Heaven and For More Shots. I got more appreciation for that than this big movie. And in each one of these, whether it was Made in Heaven or Tagore Stories or Prisoners of War, I broke out of the mold that the industry was so, you know, trying to fit me into. So, in fact, the weekend that For More Shots released, I was really pleasantly surprised that I had a lot of people come up to me and say, hey, you're that character, Kavya, from For More Shots. And she's not even one of the lead protagonists. It was so refreshing to not be that girl from Aisha. And so it was then that I realized the importance of adapting and reshaping what you define as your life and career goals. Along with resilience, it's important to keep creating and recreating yourself. You know, you need to see where life is taking you rather than being completely rigid in your mindset. It's like going up against a wall, you know. If you keep running up against a wall, eventually you're going to break your head. So the answer is not just resilience, but you need to keep adapting. I was so focused on what I wanted out of my career and what kind of roles I wanted and where I wanted to reach, that in the process I had stopped enjoying acting and the journey. So it's no longer about being the protagonist, is the point I'm trying to make. I knew I had to stop defining my success as an actor based on whether I'm playing a lead role. Instead, I had to go back to why did I start acting in the first place? For the love of the craft. Stanislavski had said there are no small parts, only small actors. This is something that I was told by my mentor when I was 18 years old, starting a theater workshop. And I thought, he's just saying this, you know, to encourage me and when you get a small role to make you feel better. But the irony is that time and again, I learned this to be true. Last year, I played a Rajasthani bride, who was also a pilot in Made in Heaven. a boho chic, the one in the center, that's boho chic, character. So, a character inspired by Zoe Kravitz in 4 More Shots. And what else did I do? Yes, an urban copywriter, much like me, who has to come to terms with the fact and accept the fact that she's been sexually exploited by her partner, whom she's married to. So it's been interesting. There was also a show I did 3 years ago called Prisoners of War. Now, to give you some context, Prisoners of War is based on an Israeli show called Hatufim, right? That Homeland is also based on. So this was huge. It was aired on Star Plus, and it was an adaptation, and there was a lot of marketing done. And the thing is, it was the first time in like recent years that a major television, Indian television network, was moving so far from the usual content of Saas Bahu, you know? And there was a show like Prisoners of War. We had a lot of hopes, but unfortunately, the show didn't do that well. And ultimately, it was even moved to a later, like a late night time slot, because censorship rules did not allow graphic content to go up without cuts, which my director didn't want. So the low TRPs made me wonder that, you know, what does the Indian audience really want to see? I believe that art should be a mirror of society. In the Times, when I did Suno, which is a small budget film that you can actually see on YouTube, produced by Terribly Tiny Tales, the Me Too movement had just hit India. Suno was about consensual sex in a marriage, and what was interesting is that it was about continuous consent, which means through the entire act, sexual act, there must be consent from start to finish, right? I was very excited to be a part of this because this is something that I believed in strongly, and that's what mattered to me and the producers of Suno. Now, I'm not saying that every project I do should have a social, I'm not saying that every project I do should have a social message. There's also things that I do for fun, like 4 More Shots. I did it because I thought it was, and I'm continuing to shoot for it because I think it's a revolutionary concept as far as Indian content goes. You have 4 modern-day women talking about their relationships and their sex lives. Now I know Sex and the City did this ages ago, but as far as I recall, in terms of the Indian content, this was completely new. So, and it was about time we actually see that, people talking about women's sexuality and putting it out there in the forefront. Yes, the show had its flaws, but I think it's great. Also, we barely see women friendships celebrated on screen. You know, either you have, in the television universe, you have them playing vamps and bitchy characters, or then they're nakins, you know? So for me, it was really refreshing to play a character where on screen the women are bonding in spite of the men, not fighting over them. So what was also fun is to see the different reactions that people had to the show in different age groups. Like my parents, friends, and social circle would be like, "Beta, that show is too much. We couldn't watch it." And I'm talking about 4 More Shots here. They were like, there was just too much sex in it. And then I'd have journalists who'd be like, "So Amrita, tell us, how does it feel to be a part of such a bold show? You know, are you now ready to do bold scenes?" I hate that question because bold means isme sex hai. What was really cool, though, the best reaction I got from the show was when I heard that people had the courage to come out of the closet because of Barney J's homosexual character in the show. So now I'm going back to the question I posed in the beginning. Is the change good enough? Well, from where I stand, I see that we have a long way to go before we turn the next page in the Indian entertainment industry. But for what it's worth, the wheels have definitely been set in motion. There is more good work happening and new content than ever before. We will have to sit back and see how it pans out and where to from here on. But really, what I think has been my most important learning is that if things are not working out for whatever reason, if the industry or the path that you have picked is not fulfilling for you, then don't just make do. Don't wait for that paradigm shift. The key is to find something that helps you realize your potential and gives you a sense of purpose. I mean, of course, it's important to enjoy what you do, but the thing is, that may not turn out to be what you had your heart set on in the first place. And that's okay. As okay as failing. So what I would say is don't try to fit into any mold, because there is no mold. Make your own mold. So just get over yourself, get on with it, and how about you turn the next page? Thank you.